We will be talking about regional anesthesia. As the name suggests, that in this anesthesia, large part of the body is anesthetized while the patient is awake. So, in addition to the potent analgesia, actually it leads to the reduction in the stress response, systemic analgesic requirement, opioid related side effects, and even the general anesthesia requirements. So we classify this into two main classes: peripheral blocks and the central neuraxial blocks. First of all, we will be talking about nerve blocks. So this is interscalene block. Basically, interscalene block, it's a brachial plexus block, which is indicated for the procedures involving the shoulder and the upper arm only. It's not ideal for the surgery at or distal to the elbow. And remember that a properly performed interscalene block almost invariably blocks the ipsilateral phrenic nerve. So you have to be extra careful because if the patient has severe pulmonary disease, then it may be exacerbated by this block. So you have to avoid. Here you can see in the picture the interscalene groove. This is the interscalene groove. This is the ultrasound in which you can see actually nowadays these nerve blocks are given under ultrasound guidance, or we can use the nerve stimulator. Usually ultrasound, it is the one that we are using for giving the nerve block so that the complications are avoided. So here you can see these are the cross section of the roots of nerves, while this is middle scalene and this is the anterior scalene muscle. Now the axillary nerve block, it is very good anesthesia for the procedures at or distal to the elbow. So actually it cannot be used for the procedure or the shoulder or the upper arm. It is used only for the lower arm or near the elbow. This is the schematic diagram. Here you can see different nerves that will be blocked. Remember, when we are talking about nerve block, so we don't mean that we have to inject the anesthetic within the nerve. No. Actually, we have to inject the anesthetic around or in the surrounding part of the nerve. So that will be anesthetized automatically. This is also ultrasound picture, and here you can see the axillary artery and axillary vein and different muscles. So this is the femoral nerve block, which is used to provide analgesia for hip, thigh, knee, and somewhat to the ankle as well through the saphenous nerve. Now what is TAP block? TAP is basically transverse abdominis plane. So this is the transverse abdominis plane block because actually the subcostal, ilioinguinal and iliohypogastric nerves are targeted in this block. Which provides anesthesia to the ipsilateral lower abdomen below the umbilicus. So here you can see what are the landmarks. Here I will tell you that this is the iliac crest, and here this is the subcostal margin. This is the ultrasound probe, linear ultrasound probe, that is placed in between these two landmarks, and here you can see this is the external oblique muscle, this is the internal oblique muscle, and this is the transverse abdominis muscle. So actually we have to target this plane in between the internal oblique and transverse abdominis muscle, because here is the emergence of all the nerves which are supplying the abdominal wall. Here you can see the needle is coming through. This is the needle that is coming inside and traversing these two muscles, and now it will be injecting local anesthetic. Here you can see, yes, yeah, now you can see that the local anesthetic is being injected in between the internal oblique and transverse abdominis muscle. Needle will be advancing further and further and further, and local anesthetic is being injected. Now, what about the Bayer block? Bayer block is basically intravenous regional anesthesia. It can provide surgical anesthesia for relatively short surgical procedures. We cannot use for a longer procedure because then there are so many complications, especially the ischemic complications. Up to 1 hour it's okay, but not more than this. So if you have to release carpal tunnel, that can be used, or even excising the ganglion, this method can be used. But remember that Bayer block is contraindicated in sickle cell disease. So here we can see how it is performed. First, there is application of bandage, so that tourniquet should not be applied directly over the skin. Then there will be pressure effects. Okay, and now you can see there are two tourniquets. One is the distal one and the other is the proximal one. And bandage is being applied from distal towards the proximal so that the blood is pushed away. Okay, and then this proximal tourniquet is inflated, and after approximately 30 minutes the proximal tourniquet is deflated and the distal one inflated, because if we are using only a single tourniquet, so then there are chances that patient will have severe pain. And now you can see the local anesthetic is being given through the cannula, and then after giving this, cannula is removed and the surgical procedure is performed. Remember that after the surgical procedure we should not abruptly remove the tourniquets, because if we are using removing the tourniquets abruptly, then what happens, then there is chances that the local anesthetic will go into the systemic circulation abruptly. Okay, so now central neuraxial blocks. Central neuraxial block. Okay, so in that we have two types of blocks, the epidural one and the spinal anesthesia. Here you can see this is the landmark for spinal anesthesia, because you can see this is the highest point of the iliac crest. Along with that, you can see the line is passing through the L4 vertebra. This is Taffier's line. So that helps us to locate the vertebrae and for application of the spinal anesthesia. This is the spinal anesthesia. How do we give spinal anesthesia? Epidural anesthesia, actually method is slightly different. In spinal anesthesia we are giving one shot anesthesia, while in epidural anesthesia you can see here that there is a catheter that is passed. Okay, and the other thing is that, as the name suggests, in the epidural anesthesia this catheter is in the epidural space, while in the spinal anesthesia that is in the subarachnoid space. And remember that the spinal cord normally extends from the foramen magnum to the level of L1 in adults, while in children it ends at L3. So spinal anesthesia is performed below this level, so that there is no damage to the spinal cord. And you know that if we are performing this below this level, so there is cauda equina, and that is actually floating in the CSF, so there is no chance of damage. Epidural anesthesia, that can be given at different levels, cervical, thoracic, lumbar. There are different levels that epidural anesthesia can be given. Okay, so the complications, so the contraindications, as you can see that there are some relative and some absolute contraindication. And in this, remember, coagulopathy and infection is very important. If patient has coagulopathy, or he or she is on anticoagulants, so we must avoid spinal or epidural anesthesia, because there are chances of hematoma, and because of hematoma there is nerve compression, so we have to avoid it. And other thing is that if patient is in shock, we should avoid this. Why we should avoid it? Because you know that spinal anesthesia causes sympathetic block, and because of that naturally there is shock, so we have to avoid it. Other thing is, if patient has already increased intracranial pressure, so as soon as we will puncture the arachnoid matter, there is leakage of the CSF, and then there may be coning, so we should avoid it. Severe aortic or mitral stenosis, in this already there is the function of the heart is quite compromised, and their output is quite low. And if because of spinal or epidural anesthesia, if there is hypotension, so it will be compromised more. That's why we should not use this type of anesthesia, or if we are using, we have to be very careful. Relative complication, because if for example some patient has a scoliosis, so naturally it's a bit difficult, so you should avoid it. Complications, you can see cardiac arrest is very important, because although that is quite rare, not very common, but even then we have to be careful, because if patient is already in hypotension, then what will happen? Because of the secondary hypertension, due to the secondary blockage, there will be cardiac arrest. So to prevent this, we should correct the hypovolemia before we give the neuraxial block. And the other thing is that local anesthetic block of S2, S4 root fibers decrease urinary bladder tone and inhibit the voiding reflex, so this may interfere with the normal voiding. Other thing is very important, postural puncture headache, postdural puncture headache. Postdural puncture headache usually happens when we are using a large bore needle or cutting type of needle, and in this actually there is severe headache. And very important thing is that this headache is aggravated by sitting or standing, and relieved or decreased by lying down. So this is quite classical, so we can diagnose it. And usually nowadays we are using 25 gauge needle. Previously larger bore needles were being used, because of that there were more chances of postdural puncture headache, but nowadays it's not that much common. Hematoma, as we have already talked about, that if patient has already any coagulopathy, or he or she is on anticoagulant, we should avoid it, because then there is chance of spinal or epidural hematoma. So if that happens, symptoms include sharp back and leg pain with the motor weakness, or sphincter dysfunction, or both. Okay, meningitis and local infection, of course we have to avoid this whenever there is local infection. And not only this, whenever we are performing these neuraxial block, we should ensure sterility of the procedure. You can see here this is the MRI after hematoma. You can see this is the hematoma. So here we will see how the epidural anesthesia is given. So these are the things that we usually need for the epidural anesthesia. First, the skin is cleaned. It's not sterilized, basically it is disinfected, because skin can never be sterilized, you know. Okay, so then sterile covers are placed. You can see, as we have talked about earlier, that sterility of the procedure must be maintained, so that we can avoid infections. What he is doing, he is just actually finding the L4, as we have talked about earlier, the Taffier's line. So he is actually giving lumbar epidural anesthesia. We have talked about earlier that this epidural anesthesia can be given at different levels, maybe cervical, maybe thoracic, or maybe lumbar as well. But spinal anesthesia, it is given at the lumbar level. It's not given at the cervical or thoracic level. So first, local anesthetic is given. If we are giving local anesthetic, patient is much more cooperative, because if we are passing directly the epidural or the spinal needle, then there is much more pain. Patient's muscles are tensed, and then it is much more difficult to find the space between the two vertebrae. Okay, so he has already inserted the epidural needle, and now you can see, and he is using needle, and in this needle there is air. Why he is using this? Because then he can judge that he is in the epidural space by loss of resistance. Although saline can also be used, but usually air is used. So as soon as there is loss of resistance, so anesthetist knows that he is in the epidural space. How we check that we are in the subdural space in spinal anesthesia? In that case, actually CSF comes out through the needle. Okay, so now you can see that he is inserting the epidural catheter. Okay, that's why this is quite different from the spinal anesthesia. In spinal anesthesia, we are giving only one shot. Okay, we are not placing any catheter in the spinal or subdural anesthesia. We are not placing any catheter, but here you can see he is placing catheter, and you can see that he is taking out the needle, this epidural needle, slowly while inserting the catheter inside. Okay, now he will take it out and fix it. Yes. So yes, now he will check that by test dose as well. Now he is checking the patency, that it's working or not. He is injecting the test dose. If it's working, so he will fix it here. So this is the total procedure. Okay, so thank you. Inshallah we will talk about local anesthesia in the next lecture. Thank you very much.